this is Carla and welcome back to the studio. And thank you for joining me for another episode of Throwback Thursday. When this video comes out, it's actually Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to all of you that are watching on the day that this first comes out. So for this episode, I will be using the Fond of Autumn bundle. So it's the Fond of Autumn stamp set along with its coordinating Autumn Bouquet set of dies. For my first card, I'll also be using this big pack of DSP. This is the Gingham Cottage 12 by 12 Designer Series paper. This paper was in our catalog last year, so it is retired. So we're just going to be using a piece of that paper for our first card. So for my first card, I have a piece of Saffron cardstock measuring 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. I have a piece of Very Vanilla measuring 5 1/4 by 4. I have a piece of that Gingham Cottage DSP measuring 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. And then I have a 4 by 3.5 inch scrap of Very Vanilla. This is what we're going to be doing our stamping on. So I will start with folding and burnishing my card base. Like so, we'll put that aside. And then on this piece of DSP, I'm going to bring in this larger image and my Saffron ink. Get it open. And I'll ink this up. Get up really good. Okay, and then I'm going to stamp that. Let's see, this way. And I'm going to stamp that kind of like at an angle on my paper. And hold that down just for a moment so the ink transfers. And I notice I didn't clean my block really well because that's a little bit of soft suede ink that's on my block. Let me close this ink pad. Side. Okay. And then I will take this piece and adhere it to my Very Vanilla. So it'll be just a really small Very Vanilla border all the way around. And then I'll adhere this piece down to my card base. Like so. Okay, so I'll set that aside. Now for my scrap, I'm going to stamp the single flower image 3 times and this banner in early espresso ink. Let's see. Let's do it this way. We want to make sure we can get all 3 pieces on here and leaving enough space so then that way we can die cut them out. I'll put that flower there. And I'll add my banner piece. See, put that. Oops. Okay, and then I am going to clean this stamp using my Stampin' Scrub. Clean my stamp. And then I'm going to bring in the greetings, sending many thanks. I'm going to stamp that inside of that banner. Okay. Make sure we have this the right way. I'm going to ink this up. And I'll stamp that right in my banner like so. Okay. And then I'll bring in this flower image again and I'll stamp this 2 more times. Okay. Okay, so let me put that aside and we'll put this aside. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to, let's see, well first I'm going to do 2 things because this part I'm going to speed up. So let me show you what I'm going to do. So I'm going to color my flowers in. So for my leaves I have the light and the dark old olive. I have the light and dark calypso coral. I have, excuse me, the light and dark so saffron. The light and dark pool party. And the light and dark pecan pie. So these I'm going to use. I'm going to color in these images. And then I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And I'll be using these dies to die cut these images. So I will be right back. Okay, so let me bring in my card. Just make sure that there's no sticky residue from the post-it tape. The piece that I did rip off, I did put on my clothing to get rid of some of the excess stickiness. So, okay, so for these pieces, I am going to put dimensionals on these. So for my label, I'm going to put one on either end and then one in the middle. And then for my flowers, I'm going to add some to these as well. I will be using the Stampin' Blends on all 3 of my projects today. So a lot of coloring. Okay. I'm gonna put my label down on my ribbon die. And I'm gonna put this down first. And I'm gonna go in the middle and then just come up a little bit of an angle, like so. And then we're gonna start with my pool party flower. And actually what I want to do before I do that, let me bring in my silicone craft sheet since I pulled the backing off on that. I'm going to add some Stella to my flowers before I put them down, because some of these flowers are going to go underneath that label. So I'm just going to add a little bit of sparkle to my flowers. I'm not going to put them on the leaves. Alright, so I'm going to take my pool party one, and I'm going to add that over here. And then my saffron flower, I'm going to add that one over here. And then my calypso coral, put that one we'll try to put that one down. Put that one out there. And then I'm going to bring in my glue dots, and I'm going to add one, see, right here. And then I'm going to bring in my linen thread, move this out of the way, and I'm going to make a double bow. I'm going to try to make a double bow. Let's make the loops just a little bit smaller. And then we'll pull little bows apart. It just gives us a little bit of a fuller bow. And I'll trim the edges of this to make just a little bit shorter. And I will add that bow right there. Move that a little bit. Okay, so, oh wait a minute, we forgot something. Not done yet. So this is our 2023 to 2025 in color dots. And I am going to use the copper clay color. And I'm going to use, for this one, excuse me, for this one, I'm actually going to use the wild wheat. These actually look yellow. So I'll put those in the middle of my flowers. This one right here. Okay, now we got the first card done. Okay, so that is our first card. On to our second. Okay, so for my second card, I will be using, along with the stamp set, the All That set of dies. I'll be using this round one here. And then I'll also be using the Pinewood Plank 3D embossing folder. So for my cardstock pieces, I have a piece of Cajun Craze measuring 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4.25. I have another piece of Cajun Craze measuring 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. I have two pieces of basic white measuring 3.5 by 2.5. Another piece that measures 6 by 1.5 of basic white, and then a 2.5 by 2.5 piece of Petal pink. So for my Petal pink, I'll be using this die. This is the die from the All That set of dies. So I'll set this aside because we'll stamp after I die cut that. For this piece, I'll be stamping some Acorns and oak leaves. For these two pieces, I'm going to be using the larger image, but I'm focusing more on the middle part of this image. This is the image that has the oak leaves and the acorns. And then I'll be die cutting those out as well. And then I also have the thank you stamp. This I'll stamp on that Petal pink circle after I have die cut it. So for these pieces, I'll go ahead and I'll fold and I'll score my card base and I'll set that aside. Now for this piece, I will be using the Pinewood Plank 3D embossing folder. So I'm going to set that aside because we're going to do all that at the same time. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to I'm going to stamp these images, and I'm going to use my Memento Tuxedo Black ink. So again, for this stamped image, I'm focusing more on the center part of it that has the oak leaves and the acorns. I just want to make sure I get that inked up really well. And we are going to center, we'll try to center this on here. I did do this on, I'm having a hard time seeing this. Try that. I made a sample card and I stamped this just fine on this piece. Let's see, looks like, okay, we got everything on there. And that's stamped. I don't know if it was because the stamp is still a little bit wet from when I cleaned it, but that image looks a little blotchy to me. But we'll go with it because I'm going to color that in. I'm just going to ink this up. And again, let's see. And in another case, you can just take a bigger piece of the basic white cardstock and you can stamp the whole image and then die cut it out with this one die here. It actually takes this whole image and it separates it into different groupings, and this middle part would be the grouping that you would want for this project. Okay, that's stamped a little bit better too. Now on this strip, I need 4 of these oak leaves. I can get rid of that. I need 4 of these leaves. And I'm going to spread them far enough so that way I can die cut them with no problem. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in the acorn and I'm going to stamp that twice. Like so. Okay, we'll close that up. Put that aside. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do next. So, all right. So I'm going to bring. Okay, let me gather my thoughts here. So I'm going to color these in, and the blend colors that I'm going to use for this project is the light and dark mossy meadow, the light and dark old olive, and the light and dark soft suede. So for these images here, I'm going to color those in first, and then I will go and die cut those. For this image here, I'm going to die cut these pieces out first, and I'm doing that because of the other stuff that's around it. It'll get a little bit confusing, so if I die cut it up front, then I remove all that extra stuff, and then I can just focus on the image itself. While I do that, I'm also going to die cut this piece of Petal Pink, and I will also run this piece of Cajun Craze in my pine wood plank embossing folder. So I will be right back. Okay. I don't know what the timing's going to be when I speed it up, but that felt like that was forever. Okay, so let's start assembling our card. So I'm going to bring in my adhesive and I'm going to put this embossed layer on my card base. And it'll just be a really small border around it, like so. Okay, and then on this piece, I'm going to bring in my ink again. And thank you. I'm going to stamp this down towards the bottom and over to the right. Like so. Okay. And then, let's see. So for these pieces, I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back of these. There. And then there. And then one of our acorns, bring in our mini dimensionals. And I'm going to put one towards the bottom of this one. We'll set this one aside because that's going to go layer on top when we're done. These pieces, I'm going to put adhesive on those. Okay. So, let's see, adhesive. And let me bring in my silicone craft sheet for this. And I'm going to add some adhesive to this piece. And kind of see how I'm going to layer this. I know where to put it. I'm going to put it about here. And get into the camera view so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, and then for two of these leaves, I'm going to put adhesive on these. Okay. And we're going to add one down here, another one here. And I'm not going to press them down quite yet. I want to make sure I have it lined up. Get adhesive on my acorn. This one actually, and let's move it out that way. Okay, and then let's take these pieces. This is definitely a card you would not want to mass produce. Get all those backings off. And I'm going to add this up here. Like so. And again, I'm not going to press that down fully until after I got my other piece on. We want to make sure that everything's where we want it. Our last card has this whole image that we're coloring in, and hopefully it doesn't go as long as this one. Okay, so I'm going to take this one, kind of loop it around, and then these two leaves, I'm going to put adhesive on these. And I'm going to tuck these back here. So, you can press all that down now. Do that. Oops. Other acorn, and we'll put that right there. Okay, and then let's see, we're going to bring in these dots again, and this time I'm going to use the copper clay. They blend with the Cajun Craze really, really well. And up there. We got one here. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in my glue dots again. And I'm going to add one right here in the middle. And do the backing. Bring in my linen thread. And we'll do another double bow. Let's make, don't need our loops too big. Okay, that looks good. Let's go and trim. Okay. And then we'll add our bow right here. And that is our second card. Now on to our third. Okay, so for my last card, I have a piece of Pool Party measuring 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4.25. I have a piece of, we've got two different size ones here. I have a piece of basic white. This one measures 5 by 3 3/4. And with this piece, I'm going to emboss it with the Tasteful Textile 3D embossing folder. So I'm going to put this aside because again, I'm going to be doing the coloring, the die cutting, and the embossing all at the same time. So put that aside. I have another piece of basic white. This measures 5 by 4. We'll be using this to stamp our images on and die cut them out with that piece. And then for this piece, this is another piece of basic white. This one measures 5 by 1 1/4, and this is the piece that we'll stamp our greeting on. So I'll start with folding, and burnishing my card base. And we'll set this aside. Okay, and then on this piece, I'm going to bring in this big image again. This time I'll be stamping it in soft suede ink. Of course, it's not a successful stamping time unless you get ink on you and all over your block. And okay, and we will stamp that in the middle. And just hold that down for a moment. Okay. I'll set that aside so it dries some. And then on this piece, I'm going to stamp my greeting that says, "Happy Thoughts of You." I'll stamp that right in the middle. Okay. So we're done with the stamping part. We'll close this up. Then I will come in with, let's see, my dark pool party blend, and I'm going to use the brush tip. And actually, no, let's wait till after we cut it out. It'll be easier because I'm going to use this die to cut that out. So I'll set that aside. This piece here, I'm going to color this in first, and then I'll use this die that will cut the whole entire image out. It won't separate the pieces. So the coloring and the die cutting of that I'll do at the same time. So let me bring in the blends that I'll be using for this. So I'll be using the number 400 medium deep and the 600 medium. When these first came out, they had numbers on them. Now they have like medium deep, you know, they got names to them. Then I have my light Bermuda Bay. I have both my dark and light Cajun Craze, my dark and light Daffodil Delight, my dark and light Pool Party, and my dark and light Soft Suede. Okay, so I'm going to color, die cut, and emboss, and I will be right back. Okay, so let's finish up our card. So I'm going to bring in my adhesive and I'm going to place this embossed piece centered on my card base. Like so. And then on this piece, I'm going to bring in my dimensionals. I'm going to add some to the back of this. These are really stuck on the backing. There. Let's see. Put one there. And then while I got my dimensionals out, let's see. I'm going to put one on this end. And then, let's see, do one in the middle. And then, put this one here because that end is going to get tucked under the image. Might as well bring out our glue dots because we're going to need those in a minute too. So I'm going to remove paper backings off of this. Got all those backings off. I'll take off the backings from my banner piece. Okay, so this piece we are going to place it about here. Now I'm not going to press it down yet. I want to place my greeting right here underneath it. Me too, anyway. Okay, now we'll press it all down. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in my Wink of Stella, and I'm going to add some on the flowers. And then I'm going to, excuse me, I'm going to add some on these berries as well. Those is nice fall colors with that pop of the pool party, the aqua. It looks really nice. Okay, and then actually I'll put some these little squiggly things. Okay. And then I'm going to bring in these dots again. And this time I'm going to use the Pebble Path. These are kind of like a brownish, grayish color. I'm going to place those in the center of my flowers. Like so. Okay. And we're going to add another double linen bow. I'm going to place that right there. Okay. Bring in a linen thread. That. And then we'll tie our double bow. Now let's just make the loops a little bit smaller. And then we'll trim. So, and then we'll add our bow right there. So that is the third card. So let me remove this and let me bring in the other cards that we did. So this was our first one here, our So Saffron with our flowers. And then this labor, what felt like a labor intensive card, I'll tell you. A lot of coloring with these ones. So the pop of the green and the soft suede on the Cajun Craze. And then our final card, nice fall yellows and rust colors and browns with the pop of the pool party. So that is our projects for Throwback Thursday. So this actually finishes up doing fall themed cards for the rest of 2023. So come Saturday, I'm starting on Christmas cards, and then the next few Thursdays through the end of the year will all be Christmas cards. So if you would like these projects, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe. It does help me in building my channel. So the day of this posting, it is Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to all of my US friends. And I hope you enjoyed this video. So thank you for joining me. Everyone have a blessed one. Bye bye.